Welcome back to my YouTube channel, The Intelligent Professor. Today I am going to talk about one of the common problems faced by students while writing the research report. Students often gets confused about what to write in the research report and what not to write in the report. So we will be discussing about contents of the report. Let's get started. Research report definition. Research reports are recorded data prepared by researchers or statisticians after analyzing information gathered by conducting organized research, typically in the form of surveys or qualitative methods. Why should a careful researcher have to be a good writer too? After the researcher has spent days, weeks, or even months working on a project, preparation of the report may feel like a formality. All the real work has been done. It just has to be put on paper. This attitude can be disastrous. However, even if the project was well designed, the data carefully obtained and analyzed by statistical methods, and important conclusions reached, unless the report can effectively communicate this information, all of the earlier efforts will have been wasted. Frequently, the research report is the only part of the project that others ever see. A research report is an oral presentation or written statement whose purpose is to communicate research results, strategic recommendations, and other conclusions to management or other specific audiences. But here, our focus would be on written statement only. Final report is not likely to be the only kind prepared for a small project. A short oral or written report on the results may be all that is needed. Extensive reports may involve many written documents, interim reports, a long final written report, and several oral presentations. Adapting report format to required formality. We can see in the picture, as the formality decreases, the content of the report also gets decreases. The format will be discussed here is for the most formal type of report, such as one for a large project done within an organization or done by a research agency for a client company. This type of report is usually bound in a permanent cover and may be hundreds of pages long. In less formal reports, each section is shorter and some parts are omitted. The slide illustrates how the format is adopted to shorter, less formal reports. We will be discussing each content of the report one by one in the upcoming slides. We have divided the report into 7 major parts. The one title page, letter of transmittal, letter of authorization, table of contents, executive summary, body, and appendix. These 7 parts can also be divided into 3 parts. First one is prefatory parts, which includes title page, letter of transmittal, letter of authorization, table of content. Main body majorly includes introduction, methodology, limitations, conclusion, and recommendation. Appended part includes data collection forms, detailed conclusions, general tables, bibliography. We will be discussing each and every part one by one. First of all, title page. The title page should state the title of the report, for whom the report was prepared, by whom it was prepared, and the date of release or presentation. The title should give a brief but complete indication of the purpose of the research project. On confidential reports, the title page may list the people to whom the report should be circulated. For the most formal reports, the title page is preceded by a title fly page which contains only the report's title. Letter of transmittal. A letter of transmittal normally begins with a paragraph clearly stating the report's content. It describes the purpose of the work for a complex experiment. It describes the scope and limitation. A concluding paragraph acknowledges those who assisted the team and the level of efforts by team members. For example, if you submit a report explaining why sales dropped significantly over the last quarter to company headquarters, you would attach a letter of transmittal to briefly explain what the report is for. This tells recipient what to expect in the attached document so they understand its importance. It includes heading with the date and recipient's address. Include a heading with your full name and company address located in the top left corner of the page. One line below your name and address, put the date you wrote the letter. Then one line below the address, put the recipient's full name, official title, organization, and address. Greet the recipient appropriately. Begin your transmittal letter with a short greeting addressed to the recipient of the letter. Write the letter body. The body of the letter will normally includes 4 sections. The purpose of the letter. This section introduces the accompanying document and gives the reader context. Explain what the document is and why you sent it, so the recipient can respond and handle the document appropriately. Details about the attached document. This section contains an overview of important details or highlights of the attached document the reader should know before reading it. Request for follow-up or further instructions. This section may suggest to the recipient to contact the sender for more information or provide instructions on what to do with the attached document, such as to write and sign it. Contact information. Provide this information to recipient so they can follow up to ask questions to get clarification on details in the document. Last, it includes a short closing paragraph. In the conclusion, include final remarks about the attached document, a thank you to the recipient, and a closing salutation such as sincerely, your name, or regards. Letter of authorization. Organizations often conduct studies and research for various purposes. Such projects need to be approved by the management so that a proper budget can be allocated. In addition, the authorities also need to issue specific instructions for the task to be carried out. Similarly, research studies and reports are also a part of educational organizations. Such research work also requires proper authorization so that the funding or grants can be sanctioned accordingly. When such projects have been approved, a letter of authorization is composed containing all necessary information, including the allocated budget, instructions, and other details. This piece of the document provides official permission for the task to be carried out. It also outlines a timeline within which the employees must reach the project goal. Table of contents. A table of contents is essential to any report more than a few pages long. The table of contents is an organized listing of the chapters and major sections of your document. Readers will immediately be able to see how your manuscript is organized and then skip down to sections that are most relevant to them. A clear, concise, and well-formatted table of contents is the first indicator of a good research paper. Checklist for tables of contents. It must be appropriately formatted. List all main section of the document starting with the dedication page. A dedication page in a report is found at the beginning before the story starts, and it is a space for the author to dedicate the book to someone. If the dedication page is not used, then start with the abstract page. Abstract page is also known as summary or executive summary. List the titles of each chapter. Do not list any subsections. All titles and headings match what appears in the text exactly. All page numbers must be correct. Summary. The summary, also known as the executive summary, briefly explains why the research project was conducted, what aspects of the problem were considered, what the outcome was, and what should be done. It is a vital part of the report. Studies have indicated that nearly all managers read a report summary, while only a minority read the rest of the report. Thus, the writer only chance to produce an impact may be in the summary. The summary should be written only after the rest of the report has been completed. It should be just 1 or 2 pages long, so the writer must carefully sort out what is important enough to be included in it. Several pages of the full report may have to be condensed into one summarizing sentence. The summary should be written to be self-sufficient. In fact, the summary is often detached from the report and circulated by itself. The summary contains 4 elements. First, it states the objective of the report, including the most important background information and the specific purpose of the project. Second, it presents the methodology and the major results. Finally, the conclusion of the report are presented. These are opinions based on the results and constitute an interpretation of the results. Finally come recommendations or suggestions for action based on the conclusions. In many cases, managers prefer not to have recommendations included in the report or summary. Whether or not recommendations are to be included should be clear from the particular context of the report. The body constitutes the bulk of the report. It begins with an introduction section setting out the background factors that made the project necessary as well as the objectives of the report. It continues with discussions of the methodology, results and limitations of the study and finishes with conclusions and recommendations based on the result. The introduction states the problem and its significance. It also states the technical goals of the work and usually contains background information that the reader needs to know in order to understand the report. A government report that will be widely circulated requires more background than a company's internal report on customer satisfaction. The last part of the introduction explains exactly what the project tried to discover. It discusses the statement of the problem and research questions as they were stated in the research proposal. Each purpose presented here should have a corresponding entry in the result section later in the report. Consider as you begin your introduction who your readers are and what background knowledge they have. For example, the information needed by someone educated in medical could be very different from someone working in the field of engineering. The introduction might include any or all of the following: problems that gave rise to the investigation, the purpose of the assignment, history or theory behind the investigation, literature on the subject, methods of investigation. While academic reports often include extensive literature reviews, reports written in industry often have literature review in an appendix. Research methodology. The second part of the body is the research methodology section. This part is a challenge to write because it must explain technical procedures in a manner appropriate for the audience. The material in this section may be supplemented with more detailed explanations in the appendix or glossary of technical terms. This part of the report should address 4 topics. Research design. Was the study exploratory, descriptive or causal? Did the data come from primary or secondary sources? Were results collected by survey, observation or experiment? A copy of the survey questionnaire or observation form should be included in the appendix. Why was this particular design suited to the study? Sample design. The description of sample includes not only the sample size and statistics regarding the subjects, but also a definition and description of the population from which the sample was selected. The section also describes the method used in selecting the sample. In the case of questionnaire surveys, information on response rates also should be provided. Data collection and fieldwork. This section is important for establishing the degree of accuracy of the results by answering the following questions: how many and what type of field workers were used? What training and supervision did they receive? Was the work verified? Data analysis. This section summarizes the methods used to analyze the data and describes preliminary analysis, statistical tests, computer programs, and other technical information. A common mistake in reporting procedures is to use the present tense. This use of the present tense results in what is sometimes called the cookbook approach. Because the description sounds like a set of instructions, avoid this and use the past tense in your methodology sections. Results. The result section should make up the bulk of the report and should present in some logical order those findings of the project that bear on the objectives. The results should be organized around the research objectives, providing an answer to the research questions. Summary tables and charts should be used to aid the discussion. These may serve as points of reference to the data being discussed and free the prose from excessive facts and figures. Comprehensive or detailed charts, however, should be saved for the appendix. Limitations of the study. No research is perfect. Its limitations should be indicated. If the problem arose with known response error or sampling procedures, these should be discussed. It is far better that you identify and acknowledge your study's limitations than to have them pointed out by your professor and have your grade lowered because you appear to have ignored them. Citing and referencing prior research studies constitute the basis of the literature review for your thesis or study, and these prior studies provide the theoretical foundation for the research question you are investigating. However, depending on the scope of your research topic, prior research studies that are relevant to your thesis might be limited. When there is very little or no prior research on a specific topic, you may need to develop an entirely new research typology. In this case, discovering a limitation can be considered an important opportunity to identify new gaps in the prior literature and to present the need for further development in the area of the study. Possible limitations of the researcher. Access. If your study depends on having access to people, organizations, data or documents, and for whatever reason access is denied or limited in some way, the reasons for this need to be described. Also include an explanation why being denied or limited access did not prevent you from following through on your study. Time constraints. Just as students have deadline to turn in their class papers, academic researchers also must meet the deadline for submitting a research manuscript to a journal. Therefore, the time available to study a research problem and to measure change over time is constrained by the deadline of your research. If time constraints negatively impacted your study in any way, acknowledge the impact by mentioning a need for a further study to answer the research questions. Conclusions and recommendations. The last part of the body is the conclusions and recommendations section. As mentioned earlier, conclusions are opinions based on the results, and recommendations are suggestions for action. The conclusions and recommendations should be presented in the section in more detail than in the summary, and the text should include justifications as needed. Both must be taken seriously as they are the very last impression you leave in the minds of your readers. They have the ability to add beauty and technicality to your piece of writing. No matter how much or how best you have written other chapters of your paper, it would not matter if your conclusions or recommendations lacks soul. It is important to note that the conclusion and recommendations may be combined or presented in separate sections depending on the type of research paper. It highlights to your readers the importance of your research to them after they have read through it. It is also serves as a round off to the story in your research. The conclusion should be written in relation to the introduction in your research paper. This means that your conclusion should be written in such a way that it relates to the aims of the research paper. The best structure for a conclusion in a research paper is to draft your conclusion in such a way that it links back to your introduction and your introduction link back to it, just like a perfect cycle. Any material that is too technical or too detailed to go in the body should appear in the appendix. This includes materials of interest only to some readers or subsidiary materials not directly related to the objectives. Some examples of appendix material are comprehensive discussions of the research methodology, data collection forms, detailed calculations, discussion of highly technical questions, detailed or comprehensive tables of results, and a bibliography. The reader who wishes to learn about the technical aspects of the study and to look at statistical backgrounds will want a complete appendix. Bibliography. The reference section or bibliography lists all the sources alphabetically by author's last name that were directly used in writing the report. Every source cited in the paper must be included in the reference, and every entry listed in the references must appear in the paper. Before you can even get into the steps of creating your bibliography, you need to understand specifically what a bibliography is and the best style bibliography formats to use for your report. This resource discusses either all the sources that were used to create the work or just those that were cited in the work. The type of citation page you create depends on the style that you use. While there are several different styles out there, three styles are most popular. We are going to discuss one by one. Modern Language Association, Humanities, Philosophy and English research paper will typically use the MLA style writing guide. The citation page will be found at the end with the title Works Cited. American Psychological Association, APA lists only the sources cited within the body of the research paper. The citation page is labeled References. APA will be used for research papers that cover social sciences or technical subjects. APA makes citing sources like journals, manuals, and other technical sources easier and uses an author date in text citation method. Chicago Manual of Style. If you are looking for citations for your history or religion research paper, this style might become your best friend. Thanks for watching the video. If you like the video, please subscribe to our channel and share the video with your friends. Thank you.